All right, and good day, everyone. And just a moment there, make sure I get everyone on here. Make sure I bring my Instagram family in on this session today. Hello and good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session, which is a live session of yours truly, Oliver Blue. And thank you for joining in on this um, session today, whether you be on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. I am coming live on all of those platforms. I'm in all these digital streets this morning. Beautiful morning, beautiful day. So happy. We're 19 days into the new year. And as you notice, life goes on. Life will do its thing, regardless of what may be going on in our personal lives or our professional lives or our corporate lives, political lives, religious life, whatever segment that we want to identify with. Life goes on. And as we come together this morning, if you've never been in one of my sessions, whether you're watching the live or whether you're watching the replay, if you're in the live, just go to the chat there or the comment and just type live. Or if you are watching this replay, go to the comment field and just type replay in there, and I will come back at some point and give you some love. And if this is the first time you've been in one of my sessions, my name is Oliver Blue, and in this expression of my life, I guess you could say that I'm a spiritual junkie, or if you want to be more technical about it, I operate as what I call an advanced spiritual teacher of spirituality. But I like the word spiritual junkie, right? Because I'm just like most of all of human beings, right? I have an impulse and a desire, right, to understand things beyond just what meets the eye, to really go into a more in-depth and expansive understanding of who I am, what I am, why I am, where I am, and how can I best fulfill my purpose in this journey we call life. How can I live my best life? How can I, like the scripture says, let my light shine before men? How can I let my light shine before men, that which is real, that which is universal, that which is God, can be lifted up in order to help all humanity to come into the truth that is true always, that we may live in peace, that we may live in love, that we may walk in forgiveness, that we may understand that our life, all of our life, all of our lives has deep meaning and good purpose, as the Dalai Lama meditation would invite us to lean into. So in this next hour or so, I can be very lengthy. I'm going to just be upfront with you. And so in this next hour or so, just sit back and relax. If you have not had your spiritual or transformative breakfast or lunch or dinner, depending on what part of the world you're in, just sit back in this space. That's what it was created for. And allow yourself to be open to explore in a more in-depth way the depths of your true self, the depth of your identity. You know, regardless of where we find ourselves, regardless of where we find ourselves in life, what stage in life, what age in life, what level of understanding, what position we are in, whether personally or professionally, what groups we may be associated with, the way we perceive ourselves, regardless of where we are. There's always this element in which where we find ourselves is the perfect place to be, and it is the perfect situation in order for us to learn about who we are. It's the best situation for us to discover our true self, our true nature, which here we say is love. And so our lives and all the situations and circumstances and conditions of our lives becomes the perfect curriculum. It becomes the perfect classroom for us to ultimately come to know ourselves. See if I can get my throat clear here. It's the ultimate where you are right now, where I am right now. The situations and circumstances and conditions you in, whether you perceive them to be good or bad. The family you are part of, the business that you are part of, the employer you might be connected with, the faith community that you have chosen, the community in which you live, the state in which you live, the country in which you live, the world in which we all live. Wherever you find yourself in this moment is the absolute perfect place. The absolute perfect place. Right? Because you can't be anywhere else, so it has to be the perfect place. But it's the absolute, your life is the absolute perfect curriculum for a deeper discovery of who you are. In other words, I have come to believe that all of us are here to rediscover who we are, to know thyself, as the ancient poet said, to know thyself. In a broad sense, all of us have this one universal purpose in our human experience, and that is to discover who we are, to know thyself, to know thyself. In every element of your life that you find yourself in right now, right? If we would open ourselves to in this present moment and in our present lives, life will teach us. Life will take us on a deep, very intrinsic journey of self-discovery to know who we are. I'm totally convinced that the biggest crisis we have in this current world, and I think the one crisis that has always been universal to mankind and his journey, the crisis of not knowing who we are, or I would say identification. I believe that through the knowing of yourself, that it is through the knowing of yourself that we can discover and uncover and resolve all the issues that we face in this life. I think it is the knowing of the self that is the answer to all humanity's problem. And until I'm convinced otherwise, right? I'm talking from my own personal experience, and I'm also talking from, my own inquiry, my own study and research from some powerful resources that are available to all of us. And I'm totally convinced that once we settle the identity crisis that humanity has always been in, there's always been an identity crisis. If you go back to the very first man, for you Bible advocates, for you Bible students, if you go back to the creation story as it is shown in the book of Genesis, the very first man, Adam. Adam was perfect in his creation, as it described there, right? If the story be true. But it's a great teaching. It's a great learning and teaching device. Adam represented the perfect creation, or the highest creation of God, or the highest creation of love. That's what he represented, being the first man. But somewhere in his journey, Adam opened himself up to an idea that something was missing, that his creator had withheld something from him, right? And that Adam became convinced that there was something that he didn't know, and that there was something that was not given to him in creation, contrary to all of the advanced spiritual teachings that emphasize the fact that love is perfect, love is whole, and love is complete, or God is perfect, God is whole, and God is complete. And that love, or God, can only create like itself. All right, that's the law that governs the universe, that every seed produces after its own kind. So if the universal Father of all creation expressed itself by extending itself, what the creator of the universe could only extend was his very own nature, which is perfection and love and completion and wholeness, right? In divinity and eternity and infinity. And so that be the case. Adam represented all humanity, and Adam represented what we are been talking about here in this series. Adam represented the perfect creation of love, or the perfect creation of God. That was his representation. Because out of that one human experience came all humanity, right? And so at some point, there was this idea, the Course in Miracles said there was a tiny mad idea where at some point we all collectively, through Adam, had this belief that we were these separate individual cells, that we have separated from our creator, and that we were separate from each other, that all of us was these separate entities in and of ourselves. In other words, that we made ourselves, that we were not all created from the one source. And this tiny mad idea created this virus I call separation, or the Course in Miracles calls separation, or even the Bible calls it separation. Then the Bible goes on later to say that there's nothing that can separate us from love, or the love of God. Absolutely nothing. I'm going to say that again. I think it's in the book of Romans. It said nothing can separate us from that love. And so if that be the case, so in reality, separation is a myth. Separation is an illusion. Separation is not true. It is not real. So in reality, humanity has never been separate from its source. Humanity has never fallen from grace. Humanity has never been, in essence, we have never been this idea. We've never, in reality, have been what this idea that we all kind of got inoculated with through the virus. We've never been separated from love. We've never been separate from our perfect creation. That nothing in this world could ever change our nature. Nothing can ever alter. Nothing in your life or my life or any of our lives could ever alter our true self, our true identity. And somewhere, somehow, through this tiny mad idea, humanity lost its identity. And when you lose your identity, the first thing that comes in is this sense of separation, this sense of that I've done something wrong or something has gone wrong. I call it sin consciousness. And then the next thing that comes in is guilt. Guilt says what? Because I've done something wrong, I'm deserving of punishment. I'm deserving of being corrected for or punished for my wrongdoing. If you know what I mean. The word guilt. And we know, all of us know, the burdensome or the burden that a guilt consciousness carries when we fully embrace the idea that we've done something wrong or that we're guilty. And then the third idea that comes in as a result of a loss of identification, a seeming loss of identification, is fear. It's fear. There's a fear of the fact that something has gone wrong. I was the cause of it. Therefore, I'm guilty and deserving of punishment. And therefore, I fear my future. I feel that that punishment is coming around the corner or is coming in the future. So sin consciousness, guilt, and fear are basically the results of a mind that has actually split off from the one universal mind that has been unchanged, that has been unaltered, right? It's split off from that which is true to make up something as a substitute for the truth. I want to sit on that for a minute. What I just described right there is what all humanity has experienced from the very beginning. What I just described right there is what all of us have experienced as we have been conditioned to this same way of thinking. And this same way of thinking has created a false image of ourselves that we now perceive ourselves. We perceive ourselves from a point of view of separation. And then on the other hand, the scripture says that nothing can separate us from the love. And the Course of Miracles put it this way. It says that what? In reality, nothing has happened. It says that which is real cannot be threatened, meaning it can't be altered, it can't be changed. That which God or love creates cannot be altered and cannot be changed. And if you embrace the reality that you are the creation of God, that you are the offspring of love, then that means that you cannot be altered or you cannot be changed. Just think about that. that which is real cannot be threatened. Then the Course goes on to say that which is not real does not exist. So the idea that we have separated from God and that we're separate from one another and that we've done something wrong and that we are deserving of punishment and that we fear the future. It's not a God idea. It's not love's idea. So where did it come from? Where did that idea come from? Adam, if you eat of the fruit, you would then know good and evil. As though God has withheld something from Adam in creation. So that's where the tiny mad idea of separation began, as a mad idea in the mind of humanity. But then we have evidence, strong evidence from very reliable sources, that nothing can ever separate us. That we remain as God created us. That we, like Jesus said in his communication to the people of his time, that I and the Father are one. There is no separation. I and you, you and me, we are one. He even went on to say that when you have seen me, you have seen the Father. Basically, he was saying that that humanity and divinity are one. There's no separation. And of course, we know what happened as a result of him making those declarations. Why? Because humanity had been in such a state of believing that they were something that they were not, believing in sin consciousness, guilt, and fear, believing that they had really caused love to be broken, that Humpty Dumpty really fell off the wall and broke into billions and billions of pieces, never to be put back together again. In other words, we sought to redefine love. We sought to redefine God. We sought to redefine our own self. Therefore, we lost our identity. We lost our true awareness. We did not know ourselves. And anytime one is in a place or a position where they do not know themselves, they don't understand. Then what results in that is a lack of knowing of our purpose or our reason. We lose the awareness of who we are and why we are. And we know from the late Miles Monroe, the great theologian, one of his most notable saying is, when you don't understand the purpose of a thing, it says ultimately all you can do is abuse the thing, because you don't understand what it's for. And so humanity has been abusing itself collectively all through the history, from the first man all the way to this very moment here in 2025. We see humanity and its redefining of itself. We see humanity and its redefining what love is, what God is. We recreated God in an image based on separation, that God is somewhere aloof, that love is somewhere separate from us. You hear the phrase, the man upstairs, or God is on his throne, or all of these traditional sayings, these old wives' tales, I call them, that have been that would have been used to indoctrinate us, that has been used to condition us to think in a way that is totally opposite of what is true. And thus you have the world we see today. And thus we have gone to make a world where everything is separated, everything is divided and subdivided. That there's this world where we've created, where we've made, where there's this all the messages, all the symbols symbolizes disunity and disharmony. That oneness is not possible. That humanity can't live in peace. That there is lack, that there is scarcity, that there is loss, that there is separation, and that there is death. All of these are our own made up ideas as a result of embracing the falsity of separation. And we redefine ourselves. From a theological point of view, or if you listen to theologians, right, they will say we are, they will define us as humanity as we are sinners. Right? We're sinners. From a psychotherapist point of view, they will define us as vulnerable and under real attack. Your life has been under attack. Someone has really violated you. And so all of these redefinitions have re-identified us to be these vulnerable, unworthy creatures that are lost and have lost our way. And the only way that we can protect ourselves, right? Only way that we can defend ourselves, right, is to stay separate and to compete one against another, right? And in that thought system, we say somebody's got to what? Somebody's got to win, and somebody has to lose. Well, that's not how love thinks. That is not the thought system of love. That's not the thought system of God. And so in this series, and this is my fourth, this is part 4 of this series that I started a few months ago. And the title of the series is called You Are the Perfect Creation of Love. Yes, you. I'm talking to you. You are the perfect creation of love. And that's not a entitlement based on anything other than the reality that we are of one source. We are of one blood. We are of one essence. The essence of who we are is the extension of our Creator, which is God, or which is love. You'll notice I like to use love and God interchangeably, because when I talk to some audience, people get offended when you use the word God, and they put their guard down. They think when they hear the word God, they have all these mental experiences that some are negative and some are positive. But when I use the word love, or when we hear the word love, it is less offensive. People really open themselves up. And so I like to, because even the Bible said that God is love, right? And love is God. So they are synonymous, right? So if you are of the religious connotation, God is okay with you, hey, blessed. If you are not, love is okay with you, double blessed. But the goal here is not to offend anyone. But the goal is for us to come and reason together, right? It is quite apparent that something has gone wrong, and here we are in 2025, and we find ourselves in such a state of disarray, such a state of division, disorder, discord, right? And that all of this, from my perspective, is coming from a place of not knowing who we are. That virus that was metaphorically described in the creation story, where Adam and Eve fell from their original state, and something went wrong, and on and on and on. And that was passed down to all humanity, right? There's a correction for that. right? If there's a problem to be solved, you have to go back to the place where the error was first created. If we're going to effectively resolve an issue, if we're going to correct an error, we have to go back to the origin. We have to go back to the place where the error was made to make real resolution, to make real correction, to have real meaningful change. And I do believe that the error happened to all of us in eternity past, before the foundation of the world, when this idea of separation was embraced by humanity, right? Free will humanity. But just because something is unreal, that doesn't mean, or just because something is not true, that doesn't mean that it becomes reality. That doesn't mean that it changes reality. It just means like that we are in this kind of sleeping state. We have covered ourselves. We have obscured ourselves. We have buried our head in the sand to the truth, right? Just because the clouds are covering the sky here where I am, and there doesn't appear to be any sunlight, in truth, the sun is shining. In truth, the sun is always shining, just beyond the clouds, just beyond the cloak, the covering, just behind the curtain, just beyond our false beliefs, just beyond our limiting belief, just beyond our fear-based theology, just beyond our divisive politics, just beyond our misperception of ourselves. The sun is shining. Love is always shining. Just beyond what we perceive to be sickness and death and lack and poverty and scarcity, just beyond that is the abundant life. Just beyond that is the truth that is true always, that is everywhere present. In other words, if God or love is the creator or the origin of all things, that means that God and love is omnipresent, everywhere present. That means that this abundant life, that means that who we are in truth is always present. Our reality remains intact. Heaven remains intact. Our purpose remains unaffected by a decision to embrace an idea that is not our reality. So the course is that which is not real. It really, in reality, it does not exist. And then finally it says, when we embrace the fact that only that which is real and it cannot be threatened, and that which is not doesn't exist, it says, then we will experience the peace of God. Therein lies the peace of God. Therein lies the peace that we all are searching for, looking for, longing for. Therein lies the unity and the oneness that we all so desire. Therein lies the peace of God. Therein lies the happy dream. Therein lies the world where we all get to embrace the bounty and plenty that is available for us. Therein lies the correct usefulness of the things that we create and the things that we make. That the things that we create, the things that we make will be used only for the advancement and the betterment of all humanity, excluding no one, but including everyone. It's called equality. Only then will we have the opportunity to see love everywhere, because love is everywhere. That is when we'll be like the Christ, where we see the face of Christ in everyone. that we look past the illusion of the body, that we look past the limitations that this world of perception mirrors to us, that our minds will be transformed and renewed to see ourselves as who we really are, to see as love sees, which will result in a new thought system, a renewed mind, right? The mind of Christ, as it is spoken of, that we will allow the mind of Christ to be in us, to let this mind be in us that was also in the Christ, who being in the form of God while being a man. Because if humanity and divinity is one, and it is, and in Philippians 2, 5, and 6, it says, being in the form of God. So this body identification that we have, it's not who we are, but it is a form that we use to express who we are. I'm going to say that again. When we lose our identity of who we really are as the perfect creation of love, then we substitute that with body identification to think that who we really are these physical expressions. No, these are only communication devices which allow us to express our true nature, which is love. Just like your car that's outside in the driveway or downstairs in the garage, that is not who you are. But it is a device that you use. It's a vehicle that you use to get you from one place to another. You're not your car. Likewise, you're not your body. You're not your race. You are not your political affiliation. You are not your religious affiliation. You are not your gender, right? You are not your nationality. It is not your identification. No, who we are is what God is and what love is, because we are the very essence. We are the very offspring. We're the very extension. We're the very creation. That's what creation is. We are the extension of love. So what love is who we are. We're the extension of one another. In Scripture, we look past these revelations, like in 1 John, when it says, God is love, and everyone that is born of God is born of love. Well, who is not born of God? And I'm not talking about your physical birth. The birth that your parents gave you, that's what your parents gave you, and it's temporary. It has a birthday and it has an ending. It is temporary. It's not who you are. It's not your eternal self. It's not your infinite self. It's not your perfect created self. No, that is what is required of you to be in this physical world. No one can be in this physical world without a body. But we are not the body. No, who we are is love's perfect creation. We are what God is, and God is what we are. So it says God is love, and everyone that's born of God is born of love. So the essence of who you are is love. And then it goes on to say that as God is, so are we in this world. As love is, as the divine is, so are we in this world right now. But do we perceive ourselves as such? Are we holding on to that true identity? Or do we see ourselves as what our parents gave us, which is a birth date and an expiration date? That's not eternal. That's not real. The true definition of real is that it always has been and it always will be. So that means that nothing in this temporary three-dimensional world is real. It is temporary. It's like a classroom. We create a classroom. Your life and all the activity of your life is like a classroom. It becomes your journey. It becomes your path to awakening to the reality or the return to your true self. As you can tell, I'm getting a little excited. As you can tell, I'm getting a little excited. And I haven't even gotten to the notes that I have here and the purpose for this session. I just feel inspired to stay in this vein because I do believe if we don't correct the error that has been made, if we don't correct the original error, that is the belief in separation, the belief in individuality, right? Individuality has its place, but not in our identification. It's just a unique expression of the one source, which is love. Look at the 8 billion people that are on the planet currently right now. All of them have a unique, right? A unique expression. You can't find two people on the planet that are the same in terms of their expression, their physical expression. But that does not make them separate from one another. It allows them to show all the different multiple, infinite expressions of love. But love is the source. Love is the identity, not the expression. If you ever been on the ocean shore, you notice that the waves are constantly coming into the shore. And you notice that no two waves are the same. They come and they temporarily express themselves, right? But what they all do is they all retract back into the ocean. They all retract back into the source. They all go back into the ocean of love. They all go back into the origin of all things. And every wave has within it the same capacity. It has within it the same characteristics of the ocean. Right? Likewise, we all came from the one source. We all are held together by the one source. We all have the one purpose, the one will that emanates from the one source. Yet in our humanity experience, we have this appearance of individuals. And each individual has the ability to express the nature of that source. That's what our lives is supposed to express, the nature of love. It was never supposed to be the point of identity, because we were supposed to understand that there's only one of us. Jesus understood this, and that was his whole message. He came to share the message of oneness. I and the Father are one. When you see me, you've seen the Father. I and you and me, we are one. As the vine is in the branch, what's in the vine is in the branch, right? All of these metaphors, all of these parables were not teaching a natural law, but they was used to teach us a universal law and to awaken us and to bring us to a place of recognition of who we truly are. He was bringing light to humanity. He was trying to wake us up from the dream of separation. He was come to let us know that we were okay, that we remain as God created us. That, like in Ephesians said, that from the foundation of the world, it was already determined that we should be holy and without blame before him in love. That we were blameless and innocent and guiltless. that we were the perfect creation of love, and that could not be undone, that could not be changed, that could not be altered. Not even the temporary proof that we try to prove ourselves undeserving. Undeserving. We try to prove to ourselves, even in Jesus' day, that we were undeserving of the grace, of the love, that we were that we that we were undeserving of the blessings. We were undeserving of the abundant life. That mankind saw himself as unfit and unwhole and incomplete. Where did that come from? The idea of separation. So we have to go back to that point to make the correction. When you look up at the sun, and what do we see? On a clear day, we see what? We see the sun rays that are extending from the sun. We see the sun rays, and every ray is unique. That's symbolic of our individual expression. Every ray is unique, and every sun ray represents the essence of what the sun is. Every ray represented the content, the ability, the potential that the sun is. But just like all sun rays are temporary, what? Because they eventually what? They eventually retract back into the what? Into the source, back into the sun, into the oneness, into the unity. We understand that in the natural. We understand the waves coming to the ocean and retracting back into the ocean. But when it comes to our own identification, we resist and we refuse and we reject the idea that we are what God is, what love is, that we remain as God created us, that we are indeed holy and without blame before Him in love, that we are indeed one being that we share with our Creator and each other. We are one shared being. And until that is corrected in our thinking and in our perception, until there's a recognition, until there's an awakening, until there's an enlightenment to this truth, we will continue to miscreate. We will continue to divide and separate and subdivide. We will continue to kill or be killed. We will continue to promote scarcity and lack and birth and death and sickness and disease. We will continue to believe in the idea of beginning and ending. We will continue to be unstable. We will continue to vacillate from being okay to experiencing sin consciousness, guilt, and fear until we make the correction. We will continue to be unstable in our functioning and inaccurate in our interpretation. So that's why I'm here to create. That's why I created this platform, because there was a time in my life when I did not have this awareness. There was a point in my life when I didn't know who I was. And it was frightening. It was absolutely frightening. It was like a nightmare. Though my outer life looked stable, inwardly, I was falling apart. Inwardly, I was full of not knowing and full of sin consciousness and guilt and fear. And I know what that feels like. I know how debilitating that is. I know how disempowering that is. And so I've been on this journey because I understand the shared interest I have with all humanity. That all humanity is, that I understand Jesus when he said, this is the only law that we need to be concerned about. It is love your neighbor as yourself, to love God and to love your neighbor as yourself, because I understand that my neighbor is myself. There is no separation. There's only one of us. And what I will have from my neighbor, I'm going to have from myself. What I desire for my neighbor, I'm going to desire for myself. The way I see myself is the way I'm going to see my neighbor. And I see my neighbor the way I see myself. The way I see God is the way I see myself. And so if I see God as this uh, uh, highly aggressive, punitive entity, that nature that has an ego bigger than the ocean. We made God in that image. We think God is, operates in these human emotions like we do, and gets mad and angry when he don't get in his way, when people don't do what they want to do. No, love is not that way. Love is not threatened by the illusion of this world. Love is not threatened by the belief in separation. It remains constant. It remains present. And so we have remade God in our own fear, in our own sin consciousness, guilt, and fear. And so a healing needs to take place collectively. There needs to be a healing among us. And the only thing that needs to be healed is our belief in separation. There is no separation. There's never been a separation. There will never be a separation. You are the perfect creation of love. And that's timeless, and that is formless, and that is the way it has been from the beginning, which you cannot find, and that's the way that it always will be, forever and always. As it was in the beginning, so it is now, and forever shall be. That's what the Bible means when it says that. Listen. We are so distracted by the glitz and the glamour. We're so distracted by this world order that we've lost our focus on what is real and what is not. We've become so accustomed to making that which is unreal real. We have made the error real and believing that we're something that we're not. We have made the error in our thinking real. In reality, has not been altered or changed. That's what the scripture means when it says, in the presence, there's fullness of joy. In the presence, there is fullness of joy. In other words, in reality, there is nothing but this present moment. The past is not real. You can't live into the future. So the only reality is the present moment. And in this present moment, when we accept the reality, when we accept the atonement for ourselves, when we embrace the reality that we are one, that we are as God is, that as God is, so are we in this world, that we are as our Creator created us, and that we remain that way, and that in reality, only love can create like itself. Therefore, I am like love. Therefore, I am love. That I am just like the sun ray that is produced by the sun. That I'm just like the wave that is produced by the ocean. That I'm just like my Creator that is perfect. That word perfect means whole and complete. Nothing missing, nothing broken. And that creation did not happen in time and space, but our creation happened before the foundation of this world. What we see in this world, what we see physically, look around you and what you see physically, that didn't happen in creation. These are all creations of humanity. These are all ideas that came through the mind of humanity. And we created form, right? We created this microphone for me to, and this platform for me to be able to talk with you, right? And that's a good thing when it's used for the blessing, when it is used to communicate oneness, when it's used to communicate our perfection and our wholeness and our completeness. But when it's abused and used to further imprison people to believe that there's something that they're not, when it's used as a communication device to further support separation, sin consciousness, guilt, and fear, when it is used to promote fear-based theology, when it is used to promote divisive politics, or when it is used to deceive people for business and business purposes and financial gain, then that same thing that we made began to work against us, began to continue to separate and divide us. So what needs to be corrected? What needs to be corrected is our thinking. Be not conformed to the belief in separation. Romans 12, be not conformed to this world. Be not conformed to the thought or the idea that we're separate. But be ye transformed, how? By the renewing of our minds. Why? So that we may prove, so that we may put on display what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. It's right there in your Bible. For you Bible believers, it's in other documentation. If you're not a Bible believer, I use A Course in Miracles. I use many resources that has led me to an awakening and an understanding. So what do you think? Do you think this sharing is relevant? Do you think that is this sparking something in you? Is there like this impulse in you to embrace the truth that is true always? I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. This truth, these realities are in all of us. The remembrance of truth, the remembrance of love, the remembrance of God has been placed in all of us. I'm just simply here as a temporary guide to remind you. But we all have this permanent guide within all of us. We all have this internal teacher within all of us. We all have the potential and the capacity to fully express the love that we share, the shared being that we are. But we have to be willing to lay down all of the illusions, all of the lies, all of the fear-based theology, all of the divisive ways that we communicate that we're not one, that there is a difference, that there is privileged, that there is superiority. These are all man-made ideas that have caused the pain and the suffering that we've seen throughout all of history, and it's continuing today. The identity crisis is over for you in the moment that you accept the truth that is true always. The moment that you embrace that there is only one. There is only one God. There is only one love. There is only one being. And we all share that one being. That we all share that one being. And that being, when it's in full expression, can only extend its very nature, which is love. So all of us have the capacity to come from a place of love, to come from a place of equality. To come from a place of truth. So it's like we must be healed. Jesus said we must be born again. That's what he's talking about. We must be enlightened. We must be awakened. We must have this universal experience in which we recognize who we are. And when we recognize who we are, we also recognize who God is, or what love is, and we also recognize who our neighbor is, and that we're all one and the same. That we're all one and the same. And we're all here to express that unity. That our purpose is to express that unity, to express that love, to be the expression of it, to be the extension of it in every facet of our life. And in your relationships, if they're to be the beauty that you desire, we must come from a place of love. If we're going to have families that are unified, and family that are supportive, and family that are forgiving, and families that are overjoyed, we must come from a place of love. If we're going to have communities that live in harmony and peace, we must come from this place of shared being, this place of shared interests. We must come from the place of love. If we're going to have a country, if we're going to have a world that is filled with light and love, and that is the expression of that shared being, of that shared interest, we are going to have to lay down these ego ideas, these selfish ideas. We're going to have to shift our perception about each other. There's going to have to be a healing of the nation. There's going to have to be a renewing of the mind. Otherwise, we're only going to produce and elect and empower people to lead us that are unhealed, that are egocentric, that are coming from a place of separation. And all they know is to separate and to divide. All they know is that, that there is this sense of scarcity and lack. And so there has to be this competition that somebody's got to lose and somebody's got to win. So this whole ego thought system that emerges out of the belief in separation is what have put the world in the state that it is in. And all the good you see in the world, and there's a lot of it, it's coming from a place of love. It's coming from a mind that has accepted the reality of who it is. It's coming from someone that knows who they are. And so here we are. In our nation, we're getting ready to have a transfer of power, bringing in new leadership, new people to lead. And that happens every 4 years in our country. But the question is, are these leaders healed from the belief in separation? Because if not, we will have unhealed healers trying to bring healing to a nation, and it will not happen. We will put people in positions of power that are not even healed. They don't know who they are. They see themselves as separate beings. They see themselves as these individual people with individual histories, with a thought system of separation. That their perception of life is coming from a place of separation and not from a place of love. And so what you will see is an abuse, because like we said, when you don't understand the purpose of a thing, or when you don't know who you are, you can only abuse yourself, or you can only abuse others. You can only abuse the power, the influence. You only take the assets that you have. And seek to capitalize off the less fortunate. That sounds like a political statement, but it's not. I just use politics. I use business. I use the religious community. I use sports. I use entertainment, because all these are arenas in which we find ourselves. Like if you're an entrepreneur, right? Or if you're an employee that works for a corporation, or if you're retired, or if you're a newborn, if you're a teenager, all this applies. All these are classrooms in which we find ourselves in to learn and to come to know who we are. And so Jesus came as a healed healer. He was healed from the belief in separation. He knew who he was. He knew he was the perfect creation of love. He knew he was as God is. He knew that he was God. Do you know that you are the perfect creation of love? Do you know that you are what God is, that you have this one shared existence with God? Do you know that you are God, as the scripture says? Jesus said, have you not heard? Ye are gods. And that went right over humanity's head. The Course in Miracles says God is, and there is nothing else. And therefore, we must be that. And it goes right over our head. Why? Because of the sin consciousness, guilt, and fear that's been programmed, that's been conditioned in our minds. That is what needs to be healed. Now, I didn't get to what I wanted to today. That's all right. I have time. Time is on my side. But if we're going to end the suffering in our individual lives, if we're going to end the suffering in our collective life, there has to be the process of healing ourselves from the belief in separation. not from separation itself, because separation in reality is not a reality. Separation in and of itself doesn't exist. But the belief in it is where the problem is. We're committed to this falsity. We have made a commitment and given our perception and our emotions and our feelings and our actions and our thoughts over to this idea of separation. You know, an example of an unhealed theologian or unhealed preacher or pastor or someone in the religious community that's leading and teaching others, what's evident from that point of view, what's evident that leader is not healed is that they start out with the preference that I had this somewhere that let me find that. It says all unhealed healers follow the ego plan. Okay. It says, for example, a theologian, they are likely to condemn themselves. So you gotta watch who's speaking into your life, regardless of their title. Because if the theologian, if the pastor, if the teacher, if the evangelist, whatever, the spiritual, whatever, however your spirituality is set up, if that teacher starts out from the premise that they condemn themselves, they see themselves as condemned, as unworthy. If that happens, it says, and I'm reading from A Course in Miracles, it says, if they are theologians, they are likely to condemn themselves, and then, as a result, teach condemnation. Teach condemnation, and then advocate for a fearful solution. Yeah, that's what it says here. That an unhealed healer, if he's a theologian, he would first condemn himself, teach fear-based theology, teach condemnation to others, and then advocate for a fearful solution. So they begin from a place of you are a sinner because that's the way they see themselves. And so they embrace that theology. And that's the furthest from the truth. You are not a sinner. You are the perfect creation of love. But if they can convince you, if they can condition you to believe in that idea, guess what? That's where you start. So you can, so in other words, an unhealed healer is someone who tries to give what they have not yet accepted for themselves. If you got a psychotherapist who's unhealed, they have not embraced the truth of who they are, then they're going to come from a place of that you have been unfairly treated. It's a reality that you've been unfairly treated. And how did it say it here? Let me find that. I don't want to be wrong. Let's see here. Bear with me. Yes. It says that if you're under the guidance of a psychotherapist, they will set the foundation that yes, you have been unfairly treated, that you have been abused, you have been taken advantage of, and it's real. And it's only that way, and they only will start from there because that's the way they feel. They have not been healed from the belief in separation. If you're the leader of a business, or if you're the leader of a country, or if you own your own business and you are the leader of your business, if you're the leader of a family, if you're the leader of a team, if you're the leader of any establishment. You're the leader, and you are not healed if you have not come to know yourself as the perfect creation of love. Then you will basically try to give something or resolve something that you have not accepted for yourself. Thus, you see what you see and what you experience in the world. Because in many cases, the leader is not healed. The leader does not know who they are. And so they can only project that on you. If you're leading a nation and you don't know who you are, and all you know is what you know naturally, all you know is what history has taught you. And so if you don't come from a place of love, if you don't see that there's a shared interest, if you don't believe in equality and oneness, if you coming from an egotistical point of view, that the answer to the problems in the world can be resolved with things or ideas or systems, and don't really understand that the only solution to any problem is first to embrace the reality of your own identity, then over time it's going to end up in chaos. It's going to end up in a whole lot of people being hurt and endangered. It's going to end up in the Great Divide, where you have the haves, the super haves, and the have-nots, because they're only going to operate from their own self-interest. Regardless of what they tell you, they'll tell you anything. The ego will say anything to get in a place to be able to empower themselves. So, what's the moral of our message today? I'm going to put it to you in plain terms. Only the good can work. Only truth will work. Only knowing of yourself, only embracing the reality of your true identity as the perfect creation of love, as the shared self that God is, that the essence of your nature is light and love and peace and joy. Only that will work. And the result of good works are more convincing than our words. Jesus says, you will know them by their fruit. Not by their words. He said, you will know whether someone knows who they are by their fruit. You will know if someone have embraced the reality that they are the perfect creation of love by their fruit. And he even went on to say, be perfect. In Matthew 5:48, he said, be ye perfect. Why? Because you are. He said, be ye perfect even as your Father is. Even as your Father is perfect, be ye perfect. Why? You can be, because in reality, you can't be any other way. In reality. In unreality, we can make up a story, a life that appears to be imperfect. In other words, complete and whole. We're not talking about human perfection. We're talking about what God created remains. That we are what God is, and God is what we are. That's perfection. And it's changeless, it's formless, it's timeless, it's universal, it's all inclusive. There are no exceptions. They apply to everyone. That's perfection. That's what love is. And it can only create like itself. And so he said, you'll know by the fruit, not by the words. You'll know by the good works. You'll know by the expression. And what convinces you what is truth are the results, are the fruits. The words don't convince us that it's true. It is the results that convince us that this is true. And when I embraced my true identity as the perfect creation of love, and my fruit changed, my results changed, and they're still aligning with the abundant life that Jesus said that he came for us to have. It's for everyone. So it is our fruit that convinces not only ourselves, but our neighbor that our work is good. And so, in ending today's session, oh, this has been good for me. And I know it's, I know. I know. This is what I know. This ain't what I believe. This is what I know. That these are the messages that are being elevated. These truths are being brought forth in the world, in this moment, to bring humanity to a place of awakening, to bring humanity to a place of healing, to bring humanity to a place of enlightenment, so that we can really be about our Father's business, that we can really be about extending and sharing the love that is ours, all of ours. And that we all are called. We're all called to share this love and to empower not only ourselves, but others, to bring peace, to bring joy, to bring happiness and fulfillment to everyone who's wandering in this world, uncertain, lonely, and in constant fear. When you wake up to this reality, it is our calling to empower others who are wandering in the world. They're wandering. And the reason they're wandering is because they are uncertain. There should be complete, when you wake up to this truth, there should be complete clarity. When you embrace the reality that you are the perfect creation of love, you will have complete certainty, complete trust. There should be no uncertainty. There's only uncertainty because we don't know who we are. When we wake up, there's no more loneliness because we realize it's impossible for us to be alone. We're never alone. We are part of this grand universal family, this grand universal kingdom, this grand universal reality that is everywhere present. The kingdom of God is everywhere. And it's not by observation, it's by knowing. You have to know who you are. And when we wake up, we are challenged to empower those that walk in constant fear, those that walk in anxiety, those that are walking in guilt and judgment and unforgiveness, those that are imprisoned by their own thinking and belief in separation, those that have been abused and used by fear-based theology, those that have been conditioned by fear-based politics, those that have been imprisoned by the whole idea this whole falsehood that has its roots in separation. So that is where I'm going to stick a pin in it today. Thank you so much for listening in. I am so happy and grateful that I get the opportunity to share in these digital streets what I believe is very useful and very timely for all humanity. And I'm happy and grateful to be able to do this. And so again, if you're watching the replay, come back around. I'll come back around, give you some love. Just put replay in the comments. If you're watching it live, put live in the comment. I'll show you some love. Until the next time, remember that truly, TRULY, which is my core message, it stands for the real you loves you, because the real you is love. Bye-bye.